Good afternoon, boys, and welcome to this Thursday afternoon's Headmaster's video blog. I'm conducting the blog on a Thursday afternoon because tomorrow is a bank holiday. It's a special bank holiday on a Friday the 8th of May. It's the 75th anniversary of VE Day, Victory in Europe Day. And as Winston Churchill famously addressed the British public all those years ago, you can only imagine the tide of euphoria that must have swept across the streets of London and indeed every other town in the UK. I like to think of the Union Jacks, the bunting, the red, white and blue that must have adorned every fence, every flagpole from here to Timbuktu, as people emerged from their front doors, blinking into the sunshine and sensing an unfamiliar feeling, a feeling of not being at war for the first time in over 5 long years. 5 years that had seen 70 million people lose their lives, both in the military and civilians across the world. A cost in human conflict, the likes of which we hope never to see again. So tomorrow and the whole weekend, it is really important that you gain an insight and an understanding to the sacrifices that were made on our behalf as we enjoy the freedoms and liberties of living life normally not under lockdown that we all too often take for granted. Something as simple as having food on our plate. Imagine being rationed as to how much you can eat. That happened, of course, during the wartime, but it also extended for many years after the war, right up and until the 1950s. The legacy of a conflict of that nature left its scars for many, many years to come. Do take the time to listen to Churchill's address. Do take the time to listen to Queen Elizabeth II and what she has to say, because I believe she's making a speech over the course of the weekend, and she was there. And rumour has it that her and her sister, Princess Anne, walked around the streets in London incognito, so people didn't know who they were, because it was such a special moment and such a unique time that they wanted to be able to soak up the ambience and the flavour of that joy, unconfined, unrestrained, that the British public was feeling. Do talk to your parents about it, read up about it, watch some documentaries, but most importantly, boys, please just make sure that you have an understanding of the significance of VE Day and the sacrifices that were made by all those people during the Second World War for you and me to enjoy the freedoms that we would normally enjoy when we're not under lockdown. Moving ahead to mentions in Headmaster's dispatches this week, a very well done to James Wang, who has received a commendation for a beautiful piece of research on the Scottish Islands. Well done to Zain Jawed, who's received a commendation for a beautifully drawn and decorated island, and also another commendation for a superb shop poster advert. Well done also to Jamie Chatfield, who's received a commendation for being prompt, punctual, ready to work from home, juggling his classwork and study centre commitments. So well done to you, boys. In year 3 this week, in mathematics, Hugo Hawksley has excelled and designed his own maze. In fact, all the class did so well that Mrs. Maskell has asked me to mention all of you. So well done to year 3, and especially to Luis and to Ryan, who came up with some fantastic cardboard box mazes, and Lewis made one on Minecraft, and Mrs. Maskell says they are absolutely phenomenal. So well done to you two boys. In year 4, Nathaniel John has received a Headmaster's Award for a fascinating video and presentation about butterflies. Sam Atkins has received an award as he showed endeavour by catching up extra work over last weekend and rewriting a whole story that they'd looked at together in class, and Miss Smith was really impressed with you, so well done to you, Sam. And Mrs. Henry did a super pupil briefing earlier in the week for lower prep, which consisted of making and baking an Endeavour cake using a sprinkle of ingredients like trying your hardest, 2 spoonfuls of efforts, and a dusting of don't give up. And I believe that she inspired a number of you in lower prep to follow suit. So mentions in dispatches here from Max Canner, who baked an Endeavour cake that was so delicious that there's now none left. So that must have all gone down very, very well at home. Nathaniel John, Alex Forbes and Barnaby Atkins also made wonderful cakes, and Barnaby even wrote a recipe to go with it. So that's great to hear. Well done, Barnaby. In Upper Prep, Year 5, Kieran Schmidt has been busy practicing his piano at home. Jack Guiney has presented a wonderful comprehension on plants. It brightened up Mrs. Seaver's day, she says here. And in fact, Mrs. Seaver is really pleased with all of 5S because they put up very patiently with her silly costumes during registration every day, and they've listened to her dutifully reading D-Day Dog by Tom Palmer. Well, that's a very topical book to be reading at the moment, isn't it? So well done, 5S. Dan Giles and Darren Usa have both received 2 commendations this week for fabulous stories in English and some amazing structures built at home during the Roman architecture topic. Mr. Clark was absolutely blown away by Darren's temple in particular, which featured no less than 18 pillars, and I myself watched a video tour of that, so well done to you. In Year 6, it's been a very, very good week for Josh McCrossan. He has been mentioned at least once, firstly by Madame Swift, who said, Josh, you're always punctual, your work is of a high standard, in English and French particularly, you've really stepped up to the mark, which is great. And he also enters the class challenge every single day in registration, so well done to you. You've also been mentioned, Josh, by Mr. Barrett, as has Paul Barrow and Christos Luca for being in full scientific flow this week. So well done to you boys. Archie Blythe in 6F has completed some great work on MS Excel, including a spreadsheet showing the results of a competition between the gods of Olympus. What a great idea. I'd love to see that. So well done. Mrs. Webb is really pleased with you, Archie. And Enzo Reed has been working extremely hard at home on all of his subjects. He has in particular done some super work in English and history, and Miss Forbes is very happy with that. And Elliot Nicolau in 6C has been nominated by Mrs. Dean for an excellent work ethic and producing a consistently high standard of work in all subjects. So well done to you, Elliot. In Year 7, Tommy Wood has been making some cartoons and a fantastic YouTube animation. One of them was portraying school life in the current situation, and I believe there should be a link in the newsletter to have a look at that. So well done to you, Tommy. Rory Slater has been nominated here for a fantastic attitude and working really well on teams, showing great maturity, so well done to you, Rory. Joe Schooling has been nominated by Mrs. West for having some really super ideas in science, especially on materials for reducing the noise level. I could do with some of those in my house, I can tell you. So Joe, I might need to talk to you about that. Tobias van Hennigan has been nominated by Mr. Rudkin for super history work on the British Empire. Mikey Fitzgibbon, every piece of work on time and a great standard attained. Mr. Barrett is very pleased with you. And Matthew Mullin, well done, sir. Great enthusiasm, hard work, and you're wearing a smile in your voice. Mr. Barrett, again, thank you for that. In Year 8, James Giles, you've had a good week. You've shown some super initiative and created a video of yourself working on your football skills in the garden. Mr. Lordy has nominated you for that. And James, again, along with Folu and Anthony, have also created a really lovely poster on the Greek alphabet for classics enrichment, and Madame Taylor has put your names forward, so thank you for that. Marcus Glenn and Pete Duncan, just general hard work and dedication in science and indeed in all subjects. And Zach Allabone has been singled out here for really going the extra mile in science and starting to show his true potential. So keep up the good work, Zach. That is good to note. In the seniors, Joe, often well done to you. You've done some fantastic science diagrams, and Year 9 generally have made a great start with their GCSE geography. Mr. Mitchell is really impressed by all of you, but has especially singled out Milo Russell and Daniel Idris for their work on natural resources, so well done to you boys. Ewan Walker has also been named here by Miss Black for continuing to make a great effort and showing a really high level of attainment. And Eddie Fisher as well. Well done to you for great focus and determination in science from Mr. Barrett. In year 10, Jack Leonard had to change device in the middle of maths because his iPad was playing up. But the desktop device didn't have a microphone enabled. And when Mr. Sicdeo asked the class a probability question, presumably quite a hard one, Jack immediately jumped onto the chat to answer, which showed great endeavour, but also really good initiative. And Mrs. Campbell, who was sitting in on that lesson, was really impressed and has put your name forward, Jack. You've also been mentioned, along with Theo Byrne, Michael Cleaver, by Mr. Mitchell for your GCSE Geography on ecosystems and biodiversity. And Mr. Mitchell is very pleased to tell you that your exams, your GCSE exams, will start in exactly 1 year's time on Monday. So use that time profitably, gentlemen. So Yoon Lee, well done to you, sir. You've been nominated by Mr. March for excellent English work. Guy Newton has been recommended by Miss Ruitz for voluntarily taking on an extra online programming course on a Saturday morning. Guy, that is great to hear. Well done. And Miss Ruitz would also like to thank all of 10L for being ready on time in the mornings and for making her feel so welcome, in spite of the fact she hasn't actually been able to meet any of you in person yet. And that's really lovely to hear. That is the Kingswood House way in absolute synopsis. So that's good to hear. And Ben Inglis, well done to you. You've received another commendation, this time in English from Mr. March, and also to Max Umper for English from Mr. March as well. So it's been another busy week of fantastic work from you boys. You are absolutely keeping up your part in this learning triangle. The teachers are continuing to work hard and think creatively of ways that you can keep yourself learning and moving forward. But in the newsletter, I've really singled out your parents. Mums and dads, grandparents, all of you. Without you, the home learning simply wouldn't be possible. You have given up an amazing amount of time. You have put care, attention and effort into your children, and if you hadn't have done so, then all of the work of the teachers would be in vain. So this week I'd like to say thank you to mums and dads. Thank you to those people who are sitting down next to you and helping you with your studies during this time. Without their support, your work simply wouldn't be as effective as it is. So thank you. Have a fantastic bank holiday weekend. Enjoy the sunshine, and please remember my message at the start of this assembly, which is VE Day. Make sure that we all have an understanding that we do not take for granted the simple freedoms of choice that we enjoy on a day-to-day basis as and when the lockdown finishes. In the meantime, keep safe and keep well.